the radio program Learning for Life. Today our topic is going to be about child rights. But what do we mean when we talk about child rights? According to the Declaration of the Rights of the Child by the UN, child rights is defined as children's rights to protection, education, healthcare, shelter and good nutrition. In today's program, we are going to center our discussion in the education sector, while talking about how education can be a factor of social exclusion and unequal situations. To talk about it, we invited two teachers and one specialist of the education field. Marta Cucala, Spanish teacher working in a high complexity school, Laura Schuller, primary teacher in Austria, and Maren Melheim, researcher on equity education. Good morning, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Really good.
Morning. Thank you for having us today here.
Yes.
Thank you for you to come. Okay, first of all, I want to read some headlines concerning the children at risk of poverty of social exclusion. In 2020, 24% of children in the UA were at risk of poverty or social exclusion. However, the levels of poverty vary greatly across the bloc. What is your stand when you hear the sentence, nowadays in Europe, in European countries, all children have access to school, but this access is making an equal way? What is your position regarding to this affirmation?
Okay, so I'm Laura and I'm the teacher from Austria. And I have to say, I couldn't more agree with the sentence that in Europe we achieved education. Every child is obligated to go to school at least 9 to 10 years in all of the European countries. But of course, this is made in equal ways. For me, for example, it is a fact that in Austria, if you have parents that are high educated, that are academical persons, you are going to be most probably also be an academical person. You're going to go to university, and this is not equal, because in Austria, for example, it really starts in primary education. In my field, we have to, the children are pressured to have really, really good grades so that they can go to a secondary school that is really with a good reputation, and they only can go to these schools if they have only the best grades. Like really every subject they have to have the best grade, otherwise they're going to go to a secondary school with lower reputation, and then they are most likely not going to go to university and not going to have a high income. So we really have a problem with this. And of course, if you have money at home, if you are an academical person, the children are going to get tuitions and are going to get better grades because they are, taking looked after at this point. And so it's really unequal.
Yeah. And what Laura is saying from Austria, it matches very well my research from the University of Oslo on educational history and equality in education. Because in Norway, for example, the focus on education since the 1950s has been to erase the class differences through educational reforms. So it has been a lot of reforms that aims to erase the major class differences, also geographically, regarding ethnicity. And the slogan equity in education has actually, paradoxically, created a lot of problems for a lot of teenagers because many feel a lack of meaning and they do not get the learning outcomes that they are supposed to. And this is especially seen with those choosing more practical professions, like becoming electricians, craftsmen, and so on. And a goal with the focus on reforms in Norway has been to give all children opportunities independent on their social background, gender, geography, and ethnicity. But research shows that inequality is actually being reproduced through the school system. And as Laura says, the working class children, they are being sorted kind of through the system into working professions, and middle class into academic professions. And the ideal in Norway has been the unit school, like the school, one school for everyone to fit inside one school. And it's a paradox that this school actually reproduces the inequalities. So this is something we take very serious, and we are trying to to implement some new reforms to make this more sufficient.
And Marta, that you are working on a complexity school, what is your point about what they are saying?
Yeah, I totally agree because as you said, I mean, a complexity school, does it means that in Spain we have different categories regarding the different backgrounds that are in each school. So for example, we can see that there are some neighborhoods that are really in a really vulnerable situation and they are at risk of exclusion. So what does it mean is that these children, they have a lot of concernings and they are struggling with a lot of things that they are not able to develop themselves in education as the same way that someone that is in a wealth family. So, but then we can see that the education is still the same for everyone when their situation is a different one. So they are not taking into account their situation and their context. That does it means that, yeah, it's not playing a good role for the ones that they are, always thinking like how to manage some things that, for example, how to eat or how to have a shower because they can't. But then in another neighborhood, they don't have this problem. So yeah, as Ma'am said, that at the end is a structural conflict because we cannot do a same education with people that are in a really different situation. So yeah, I totally agree with all the things that you have said.
Okay, and regarding of all these arguments that you have said, how would you as a teachers and researchers improve this situation or make it change in some way?
Yes, I would like to start because I believe that as a researcher, also from an academic point of view, that the big question in equality in education is, it's how to create social justice in the school system, but also what is social justice on schools. Because in Norway, for example, and in many European countries, the ideal has been similarity, that people are because of course we are all valued the same, but also it's an ideal to be similar, to have everyone on the same level, sort of, not level, but on the same in the same place, and maybe similarity is not the goal. Maybe it's more about being able to see the individuals and create something to equal education through more tailor-made education that also values all the different paths that these students do. And to be able to reform schools like this, we need more resources in school, because the teacher needs to be able to do this, need more resources, more money, more co-teaching, and so on.
Yeah, I cannot agree more, because at the end what happens is that we are always like doing education as it is. It's a path with a final ending that it's only one way, but this is only like giving the chance to the ones that can be working in this way. But there are a lot of different types of intelligence also and talents that we have to really embrace and to really like foster that every child can develop as far as this child can, but not taking into account and having a final result, because there's not only one way.
Maybe not progress. Maybe progress isn't always the most valuable source of education. Maybe it's not always about progress in the way that we traditionally view progress. We also need to change the system that we live in in order to fight climate crisis, for example. So maybe it's not the most efficient way is to make children believe that progress and having one goal is the main value in life, because then we just recreate the system that's already not working so well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, because I'm really I try to, and I know a lot of my colleagues in primary education really try to value all these differences in the children, but in the end we have the pressure from the state that we have to grade them. We have to grade them on how good are they at writing and all this stuff. And for me, that's the point I would want to change. I want the government to change the view on this, because for me, in primary education, grades are not good and should not be there, you know. So for me, I would rather not have to, as I said, grade a child on how good it is at adding 1 and 2 to 3, you know, the stuff. So for me, it doesn't depend on the values we have as teachers, but on the values the government has and the society has. Because
Mm.
everybody is so focused on these grades,
Mm.
but they're not good for the children.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
So maybe we are the problem.
Hmm.
The system is the problem.
The
you know?
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because maybe the equality comes when all kinds of paths of all kinds of educations are valued the same.
Yeah, and also this we can observe it as Laura said, like we have to grade all the time, but we should take more into account the different competencies that every child has, and also like putting in the middle the mental health also of children, because they are struggling a lot of things that maybe it's super hard, and they need a good mental health in order to be able to develop themselves. So I think it's a matter that a lot of times is not really talkative, and it seems like the teacher cannot be really connected with children, or the teacher is someone that only gives a lesson and then goes home, and should not be like this. It's kind of reciprocal relation, and it's a team, and at the end, if you are not good and you have the head in another things, you cannot try, and you are not going to be able to fail to try and to learn, and
It's also
to
a
have the energy.
democratic problem
Mm-hmm.
that they are being forced into these boxes and into
That's the
this
problem.
system, and they don't have a saying
Yeah.
because it's all already sorted out.
Yeah.
So they are not really democratic citizens, which the EU wants to promote, of course. There's a paradox, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the problem of society that we want to put all the children in boxes. You know, that's the children. These are the good children. These are the middle children. These are the bad children. You know, we always want to separate them into you know. The problem is that society wants the children to grow up to be people that contribute, you know, to the society as a working person, as somebody who gives money and works for the system, and
Yeah. And also I think this is related what we talked about before, because there's a huge gap between the ones that are in a wealthy family and the ones that are in a working class, but then this is not a coincidence. At the end, we are in a machine, and at the end the system also, it's like taking advantage of people that are having jobs that are not really, really well paid, and they are in a bad condition. So yeah, this is playing a huge role, I think, in the society. So as we can see, also it's important to educate teachers to be more available, to be more equitable, and not only giving,
But it's also a problem that the teacher cannot have all this responsibility, because this is what the teacher is going to be: a teacher, a therapist, social justice fighter. I mean, it's not possible. So
Yeah.
in the end, we need to make a bigger change, I think.
Yeah. And also I think that in every class should not be only one teacher. Like, I'm in class with 25 or 30 children that each one has a lot of things to do, and I cannot manage it. Like as you have said, be all the things like the psychology, the teacher, also like the supporter, so
Soccer mom.
I think we should do more a learning community, and also researchers with teachers also having to work together and all.
Okay, it was super interesting, all the things that you have explained. Thank you so much for coming to the program and explaining all these situations. It was really interesting. And see you in the next program. Bye bye.
Bye bye.